sahaviryam karavavahi tejasvinavaditam stumavadvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us, may that one nourish us both. May that one give us tremendous vigor and strength, particularly in our studies, and may we not find reason to unnecessarily quarrel. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So we continue our study of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga. And so earlier we had a summary of many of the divine glories which are there. And we left off at the 31st stanza. Actually, we didn't. It was the 32nd stanza, I should say. Sarganam adir antascha madhyam chaivaham arjuna adyatma vidya vidyamam varaha pravadatam aham. So, Sarganam among creatures, among creations, but there's no real concept of creation in the Vedanta system, because we have to avoid some awkward questions. Where was the second-hand shop God went to get the created materials? And then there's the other doctrine, theological doctrine, ex nihilo, from nothing. And curiously enough, modern cosmology has come across the same cul-de-sac, saying that something has to be produced from nothing. But of course, we now bring in some other interesting ideas, and now there's a revision to that. Not exactly nothing, but nothing that we know of, nothing that comes within the laws of physics, nothing that is, in our Vedantic language, within the scope of nama rupa, name and form. No time, no space. So therefore, any question of a beginning is out of the question. And so there's the concept of srishti, some kind of projection that is there, some manifestation, which means that the material and efficient cause are the same thing. So we get over this difficulty in this way. But this whole chapter is telling us this. It's telling us that wherever we look, we'll find the supreme that we're looking for in the mold of name and form and cause and function. And so we can't sit around and say, I am here, where is God? The more pertinent inquiry is to say, I am here, what am I? And what is that inquiry? Am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I any entity that has divisible parts? Am I contained within space? And am I in the continuous apparent flow of time that starts at a point and finishes at a point? That's our perception of it. Even though it's not exactly like that, it's how we view it, how we think of it. And so, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle, all of it. Not just the beginning, not just the original cause, but also the end and the middle, the whole thing, wherever we look. And we tend to think of things in this linear fashion, that there's a beginning, there's an end, and there's a middle somewhere. That maybe we came into a world not knowing where the beginning was, and we won't be hanging around to find out when the end is, and so we're stuck in the middle somewhere and trying to make some kind of speculations. And so the deeper inquiry is necessary to find out what is the makeup of all of this, and for this reason, Sri Krishna goes on to say that of all the sciences, is Adhyatma Vidya, the science of the self. And the science of the self, because that's our inquiry. If you want to inquire what is the nature of the universe as such, then we have to say, I'm not excluded from it. We tend to think nature is something out there with forests and trees and mountains and rivers and all of that. We forget that we are an intrinsic part of nature. When we take ourselves as an individual, biologically, or even a psychophysical entity, we are part and parcel of that same nature with all the same laws and all the same apparent qualities and substantive qualities, gunas. Gunas are not exactly qualities, because a quality has to have something attached to it. You can't have a bucket full of white. You have a white something, white milk, white paint, whatever it is. So these evolutionary forces, gunas, are there wherever we look, and they include us. It's all part and parcel of what you call nature. And so therefore, of all the sciences, I am the science of the self, because that is the deepest, most causal aspect of the whole of nature. Modern science today has researched many things, and we have gotten many technological advances as a result of scientific endeavor, inquiry, and vigor. And science and all our knowledge, of course, skill to know, all our knowledge is built on previous accumulations of knowledge. You take, for example, the electric motor. We find wherever we go, in any industrial setting, the electric motor drives all the pulleys, drives everything, and drives the big turbines in hydroelectric plants. Just on a bigger scale, that's all. So this whole idea that something is built on something and we gain cumulative knowledge, and so many scientific minds acknowledge this and understand that we are not learning anything new, we are just adding to it and creating different interpretations of the same thing, but always trying to add, always trying to unfold and evolve the knowledge that we already have. The ancient rishis did this also, and they made this inquiry, what is this nature, what is life, and they came across the conclusion that it doesn't end in any external material thing. There has to be a deeper inquiry. When we ask what is the cause of something, we have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. In Ramakrishna's examples, a person, a forester, going into a forest, cutting the trees, and earning a living, and a voice telling him, go deeper, go more inward. And then when you go more inward, you find sandalwood, and then you find various other things, ultimately diamonds, gold, silver, all of those things. But go deeper is the message. And so we can't leave our inquiry at the surface. And all materialistic investigation will have to go beyond the surface, go deeper. So we have now an acknowledge of that, because science has led us from 1905 to a situation where we acknowledge there's a driksha and there's drik. There's driksha and drik, the seer and the seen. An observer, for the first time, really, it takes a prominence in our scientific investigation. We're not content with just looking on the outside. We have to see who is the one that is observing that, because now we have relativity. Things are related to something else, ultimately to observer. Special relativity, where are you standing is the question. So time and space looks very different depending on where you're standing. It becomes something like a geometric equation there, something like time and space coming in a geometry or in a geometric description. And then, of course, we come across the most subtle of physics, where we can't understand what's going on there because of what is called a widely acknowledged observer effect. What that is, we'll leave that. But the effect is there and has to be acknowledged. Great minds such as John Wheeler and so on have postulated that this is not just an observer, but a conscious observer. And so the difficult question now is, what is this consciousness? And a materialist is looking for consciousness as an objective thing, contained within the effect, namely brain activity, neurological activity, and so on. So that we come across the phrase now from the Australian neurophysicist or neuroscientist asking or making the statement that consciousness is the hard problem. It's the hard problem because we can't get to the root. Everybody has a subjective experience. We can't look for it in brainwaves. We have to look for it in who's seeing it, who's knowing it. And when we ask the question, what is consciousness, is equivalent to asking, who knows it? Who or what is the knower? These questions are Upanishadic questions. What is that, by knowing which we can know everything? And so I'm of the sciences, of all the things to be known, I have to know the self. Let's put it in the inspiring language of Jesus. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, other things will be added unto thee. But if you look for the added things, you'll never find the source. When you find the source, you've got everything. When you find the source of anything, you have the everything. You find the source in, Swami Vivekananda points out, if you find that root, that ultimate cause in chemistry, that one thing from which everything comes, then you know everything about chemistry. Same thing with physics. And the same endeavor is being directed by the scientific community in trying to reconcile everything to one particular theory, something that has a theory of everything, a reconciliation between the seemingly microcosmic world of the quantum and the macrocosmic world of classical physics and general relativity. So this science of the self is worth knowing and is being acknowledged, even though it's being put out as the seen, not the seer. And what is the seer is dismissed. But we can't avoid it. Our own experience drives us toward this question, what is the seer? And drives us toward the answer also. It is that which cannot be seen. You cannot know the knower, you cannot see the seer. And when we introduce this idea, we give simple examples. Have you ever seen yourself, meaning your physical self in your entirety? We asked this to one of the children on a Sunday class. Oh yes, I've seen myself. Where? In the mirror. I see. You've seen a nose and you can see your hand, you can see various parts of the body, but yourself in entirety, have you ever seen it? No. But what are you? Who are you? You're the one that sees and is not seen. So this is a very profound approach. Not standing, saying, I'm here, and where is the extra cosmic cause of my being here? Where is this thing called God? No. I exist. Everybody acknowledges this. I exist. The next question is, what is this I? What am I? Why do we call it a science? Not just because it's something that is known and knowable, and it's a line of inquiry, introspective inquiry. Not just that, but the process is also scientific. What is the scientific endeavor? Is first of all to find out if there's some credible authority. You have a problem. Is there a solution to it? And is this solution logical? And is it tested? And is it testable? In the language of modern scientific methodology, is it falsifiable? If we find that it's falsifiable, then that meets the scientific open criteria. The criteria that we can question, we can adjust, and we can absolutely nail it down as a theory that is unshakable for the time being. So like any other inquiry, we find out what is the credible source first. For example, if we want to find out any question about physics, would it not be, while he was still alive, best to consult a man like Stephen Hawking rather than consult the grocer or the person behind the spa counter? It makes much more sense to go to the authority. And then having gone to the authority, we have some provisional acceptance that is true, and then we go on to verify it, knowing that it is logically possible. And then we create a model for it. So spirituality is exactly the same process. Often the expression is used that Sri Ramakrishna used the laboratory of his own mind in developing his spiritual pursuits and his discoveries. And then at the end of it, he was truly able to say, of course there is a God, I have seen him. I have touched the very waters. I have entered into the bliss. I know, and you can see what it makes the credibility, the overflow of it, inescapably radiating out toward anybody within his field, his radiating field. Coming within his field, within his area of contact, transformations occur. And so in the same way we can call it a science, following a proper scientific method. Not just hearsay, not just doctrine, not just dogma, not just blind belief. And religion comes under fire. In a rational age, this is just blind belief. You're just believing it because somebody told you it. You didn't think it out. You believe it because it's your cultural tradition. That's it. Is there a different way? The different way is, no, experience it for yourself. Direct experience. Go through all the methodology. Don't be an armchair critic. Don't say it's impossible. There cannot be such an entity. There cannot be such a life. There cannot be such a documented life of a Jesus, of a Buddha, of a Ramakrishna, and so on. Because the armchair critic says, quite comfortably, in a lazy way, I won't bother to follow the methodology. And the methodology is purifying the mind, cleaning the mind. This is what we call tapasya. This is what we call spiritual endeavor. This is what we call the science of the self in a practical format, the methodology of it, not just the principle of it. So naturally it's the superior thing. Having known this, we can know everything. And so of the sciences, I am the science of the self. And of those who debate, because very often we want to get some knowledge by debating. And those who argue and debate, I am the reason. And the word for this is vadaha, logic. It's a search for the truth. Sometimes there are other avenues for it. Sometimes we stick into a boxing corner and have a boxing match against an opponent just for the sake of it, just to hold on to our cherished idea with no open mind. But to find truth requires an openness of mind. I put this some years ago, and somebody with a very serious face said, I used to have an open mind, but then my brains fell out. So, because you see, brains and mind, they get confused also. And so the commentary goes on like this. This is Swami Bhavananda's commentary. In the 20th stanza of this chapter, Lord states that He is the beginning, the middle, and also the end of beings. And here He states that the same is the case in regard to the elements as well. While making an ornament, while maintaining it as such, and while melting it back to the original state, gold, the material cause of it, remains ever the same. You cannot have gold and a ring. You cannot have gold and a ring and a bracelet. When you melt it all down, it's gold. If you ask gold, if gold was a consciously relating entity and say, what are you? It would be wrong for it to say, I'm an amulet, I'm a ring, I'm a bracelet. It would be right to say, this is my form for the time being, but I am gold. Gold is the substance. So this is this aspect of substance and name and form, and the substance that we have underlying everything is described as existence itself, Sat Chit Ananda, existence and consciousness and bliss itself. And everything else that we find in this Vibhuti Yoga is a variation, a manifestation. How do we get to that substantive entity? By taking these trails and leading us, let them lead us in. This is meditation. As I've told you many times before, it's going from the outside to the inside, and then going back again. That journey has to be gotten in a sporting, loving, artful way, in a way that has some inner joy as a result of it, a pleasant activity, directed, not emptying the mind, as some people think, not focusing your vision on one thing, but varying it, taking your inner journey and making your inner discovery. And so there are two other avenues, and one is just to debate for the sake of debate, and dialectics for the sake of dialectics, and nothing more. So, reason can be an instrument, and Sri Ramakrishna has this to say, know the one that is the root of everything. Then truth becomes self-evident to you. Put the number one first, and then add the zeros to it. This done, the zeros have their value. Without the number one, they are valueless. The many get their values from the original number one. Ishvara is the number one, the universe, and the beings are the zeros appended to it. Now, this week I'm going to stop there.